Hey, Nicole Huntsman here from moderncosmic.com. I've got your forecast for the week of November 29th through December 5th. This week looks like it's kind of a building up week, and it's also one where I'm titling this Sugar Plum Fairies while Sugar Plum Fairies dance in their heads, because there's this theme of us having some big things sort of gearing up on the world stage, but those of us here in the United States being sort of in La La Land in our little happy dream world. So let's go ahead and get started with the weekly forecast. All right, on Sunday, November 29th, we've got our Saturn, it's in Sagittarius, about to be joined by the Sun in Sagittarius. As that Sun comes to conjoin Saturn, it is also going to be squaring Neptune. This for me is kind of this, us being sort of in our own private Idaho, so to speak, our own little La La Land as Americans and as a country. This weekend, it's Sunday, it's typically a pretty quiet day in America, I suppose. So we also at the same time, though, do have a little, almost a Grand Cross forming between Pluto at 14 degrees of Capricorn, Uranus at 16 degrees of Aries, the Venus-Mars midpoint, which is in Libra, and then the Moon, which will be in Cancer, of course. So to me, this day is kind of one of people being homebodies, reflecting on family traditions, because you got that Moon in Cancer, focusing on their families and sort of gearing up for the holidays, which is typically what we do this first Sunday or so of December. Also, it seems like, I know this isn't technically the first Sunday of December, but you know what I'm saying. It's like after Thanksgiving, the first Sunday after Thanksgiving. Also, we've got our Mercury in the sky is making a trine to Uranus, and that then will also be sort of squaring the Moon at some point during the day, and then that will quincunx that Mercury. So it makes a little formation. So it's, travel, it's being careful while you're traveling. Of course, it's wintertime, so it's time where there could be accidents and things like that happening, and also time for sort of travel warnings and just to be cautious and to stay home. Moon in Cancer says just stay home and cozy up in your blankets and stay inside, okay? But overall, Sunday is, not a super eventful day. Relative to the national chart, today we've got Mars gearing up. The transiting Mars is approaching our Saturn, which will create this interesting, it will oppose the Uranus that's currently transiting the sky. At the same time, it will be squaring our Mars. So that's a transiting Mars, our Saturn, opposite Uranus, which is loosely conjunct our national Chiron, and then squaring our Mars. So that is a time where, this is next week, where some sort of an event will most likely happen that's somewhat unexpected. At the same time, Jupiter will conjoin Neptune on that same day, and so that's sort of this expansion of, like I said, this sugar plums in their head. But that's coming up, that's this next week, but this is an approaching event, so many times you'll see some buildup, you'll see things sort of leading to this event, okay? Other than any other events here on Sunday, let's see, we've got the transiting Sun, that's conjoined with Saturn it's opposing our national Uranus, and that could be an interesting opposition. Overall, Sunday is a relatively quiet day. There will be discussion about women's issues when you have the Moon conjoining that national, Moon in Cancer conjoining our national Mercury in Cancer, which of course we have been having these discussions. In fact, we've been having discussions about the shootings that have been happening at the abortion clinics, or abortion clinic rather, Planned Parenthood clinic. Obviously women's rights and women's issues will be sort of a topic for discussion right now. And then let's go ahead and move on to this approaching T-square that we'll be having between the Sun of the United States, Mars, Saturn, and the transiting Uranus, which is approaching and not here quite yet. There's more of a sense of sort of gearing up for the week and planning and preparing for the week ahead. Okay, so for Monday, November 30th, we've got an interesting T-square that forms with our Moon. It actually forms a grand kite. It includes, in this transiting skies above us, it'll be the Sun separating from Saturn in Sagittarius, that Uranus that's in Aries at 16 degrees, the Moon when it hits about 16 degrees of Leo, and then of course that forms the grand trine, and then we have Mars in Libra. that's up at the top of the kite, the apex of the kite. Now, the way that this will affect us as a nation, this is going to happen at about 3 a.m. Eastern time, which I believe is around 9 a.m. Central European time. So there's a possibility that there's an event that happens. Because it happens in the middle of the night, to me, suggests there's perhaps something that will happen overseas in Europe, perhaps in the Middle East. But yes, this is probably some sort of an event. It could possibly be it's an unexpected event. It could involve some hubris. Moon in Leo is something bold and something that's going to be heard. So yes, so there's the possibility that there is some sort of action that will be taken on Tuesday of a military nature or something sort of unexpected. At the same time, we also have Pluto, Uranus, and Mars gearing up to make an exact T-square, which will happen next week. That's not quite in the works yet. It's coming pretty close to being with an orb, so in the next couple of days. As far as in our nation, when you look at our national chart, there are some formations that are gearing up, but that aren't exactly complete yet. Monday, we've got the Sun, Sagittarius Sun, that has joined the Sagittarius Saturn, is going to be squaring Pisces, the Pisces Neptune, and that will also be, as the moon moves into position, quincunxing that transiting Leo moon. We also have, with this formation, this forms a T-square to the United States Uranus. So Monday is a day, like I said, this is a day where perhaps in the middle of the night there may be some sort of an event that happens overseas. Then the Moon, Sun, Uranus trine, it's weak and separating. Uranus is kind of at a wide orb, but perhaps Obama makes an announcement about standing ground and waiting, and this idea still of this holding pattern. In our national chart, we have that Sagittarius Sun conjunct Saturn in our 12th house, which to me is kind of like authority and sort of the call for us to be authority figures nationally or internationally, sort of in the wings, so sort of waiting. As soon as that sun pops over the ascendant, which I believe is 14 degrees Sagittarius for the United States, then there's a good chance that we will sort of enter the world stage more and be more of a major player in the Middle East and the crises that are happening over in Europe and the Middle East. So we shall see. That will be in December, January time, December when it pops over that. Anyway, but back to Monday. Again, there's probably going to be some sort of an announcement by Obama where he's kind of holding his ground about us being these peacekeepers and sort of this mythology of the United States being the international, benefic, and that we're here to sort of protect others, but sort of from this role of being diplomats rather than, boots on the ground, aggressive, hawkish action takers. It's like a little bit more dove speak, I suppose. The addition also of the transiting Venus lining up, it's trining our Aquarius moon. And then it makes a loose trine to our Gemini Mars, which is us taking action. This is again the suggestion of us sort of holding our ground as sort of the peacemakers internationally. Okay, that may change in the next week or so. So the events of next week will be around December 10th. Will be perhaps events that precipitate us taking more action. Tuesday on the 1st of December, this is kind of an intense day. We've got our transiting moon, which is in Leo, will be making an exact trine to Uranus in Aries, which will also trine our 16-degree Mercury in Sagittarius in the sky. So this is going to happen for us. It's going to be 3 a.m. Eastern time here in the United States, but it's going to be 9-ish, 10 a.m. or so in Europe and in parts of the Middle East. So this is a time where there's a chance that some sort of reactive, perhaps hubris, some action driven by hubris may take place. Now it's a trine, so trine is a little bit more benefic, we typically would assume, but at the same time, Uranus is opposite the Venus-Mars midpoint in Libra, which is sort of diplomats or taking action, a coalition taking action, a group taking action, and because it's in Libra, right around the same degree as Isis and their Mars, there's a chance that they may be sort of gearing up to take action, if not actually taking action, and we may see some sort of military action taken by ISIS, or not military, rather more like terrorist activity. So As that Mars that's at 10 degrees of Libra moves to make more of an exact square to Pluto, the powers that be, in Capricorn, that's when we probably will see our reactive action, those of us that are parts of these larger countries taking action against the revolutionaries. So that's going to be this next week. Now, as far as you and your life, if you've got cardinal signs in your chart, or if you've got fire signs that are kind of in the middle degrees of the fire signs, so in the teens, you're going to probably feel this day. By the time you wake up, if you're in the United States, the moon will have moved into such a position that it's not an exact, trine, but you may actually feel a kind of nice flow of energy where you feel like sort of energized, and you may have a hard time staying focused on this day. You may have a desire to sort of, it's a little ADD, so you might have a hard time kind of getting your projects done. You might have a lot of ideas. And you throw in Venus and Mars in the mix, and it just, in Libra, it suggests, if you are collaborating with someone, it's a great day to get some things done, to get some things accomplished, but things may just not go according to plan with that Uranian, energy thrown in the mix. Okay, Wednesday, the 2nd of December, we've got a few more interesting things happening. Our moon is in Virgo on Wednesday, moves into Virgo, which of course is a mutable sign. And as we know, we've got two of our big players in mutable signs. We've got Saturn and Sagittarius, and we've got Neptune and Pisces. So this moon will be moving into formation to square. It's going to oppose our Neptune, and it's going to square our Saturn, which is also conjunct the Sun. The Sun is separating from Saturn, but the Sun still is in that mix. So, you mix these together, and you've got worry. That moon in Virgo, to me, suggests anxieties and worries and over-analysis. And if you look at this relative to the United States charts, we've got our Uranus in Gemini, and it's, I believe, right around 7 or 8 degrees of Gemini. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. But it's going to be making aspects to that moon. That moon is going to be moving into such a position that it does square that Uranus, and of course, it'll be also making that, it makes basically a grand cross. Okay, so this to me is a time where there's a lot of discussion and a lot of debate and a lot of, this Uranus of ours is in the 6th house of public service, and this is even the military, and this is discussion perhaps of, I can see these talks happening where Mercury has moved firmly into that 1st house of the United States national chart. It's a good chance we'll be talking about taking action militarily. It's opposite our Mars, so to me, something has perhaps happened on Tuesday that would precipitate these conversations. Now, the Sun has not yet moved into the national 1st house, so it's almost like, again, that Saturn conjunct the Sun, kind of this holding pattern, but it's sort of this inevitable, we'll be moving into a position where there is an announcement of the United States entering into perhaps conflict, or entering the theater, so to speak. That the transiting Mercury is making a square to the national Neptune, and it is also opposing our Mars, which is also squaring our national Neptune, and Jupiter is coming to make an exact conjunction to the peak of that. So Jupiter would expand those conversations and this talk of perhaps a declaration, not a declaration of war necessarily, but perhaps an announcement that will be made not necessarily on Wednesday, but sort of this call from the people to sort of, we want action to be taken, okay? That moon that is transiting through Virgo is, is squaring the Uranus of the country, and Uranus is squaring Neptune, and the moon is kind of opposite Neptune, so it's worried conversation, over-analysis that's a little based on fear and not so much perhaps in total reality, but it could be, talks of war, talks of conflict. So, that is on the radar for sure for Wednesday. Okay. As far as your personal life goes, this is a day where if you are somebody who's got your moon or your progressed moon or your solar return moon immutable signs, this moon's going to be squaring that. So for you, you may really be experiencing kind of anxiety, especially if you're at the beginning, the first half of Virgo. Okay, it's like 0 degrees through 15 degrees or so of Virgo, or even a little earlier. The rest of you, you're going to be experiencing this the next day. So you'd be experiencing this on, there on Thursday. So, but overall, it's a day where there could be this Neptune opposite moon being squared by Sun conjunct Saturn. Really, to me, says people that have an ideology that is based on sort of their irrational fantasy of how things should be, and then that moon moving into Virgo and sort of making it all very reactive, or people worrying, or people talking about things, or overanalyzing things again. So these topics of these issues of conflict are definitely being discussed on Wednesday. Right. Thursday, the 3rd of December. So on Thursday, it's a little bit more of the same. It's similar to Wednesday. Moon is still in Virgo. We've got the moon approaching, the transiting moon is approaching the transiting Jupiter, which is conjunct the national Neptune. So this can be a time where definitely we are really wanting to escape reality with that Jupiter conjunct Neptune. And Neptune in the 9th house of the national chart is our national myth. So it's kind of aggrandizing the national myth, and people who are very patriotic sort of really leaning into that myth, so to speak. And as that moon comes and actually conjoins those two planets, it's going to make this even more emotional and more, because it's squaring Mars in Gemini, which is discussion of conflict and taking action, and what are we doing about this. And it's also squaring the transiting Mercury in Sagittarius, which is also, it's transiting our first house. So us as a country, what are we going to do to take action, to be the leaders in the country? This idealized mythology that we have as the peacekeepers, or as the country that's here to sort of serve these other countries as the freedom fighters, so to speak. I'm not saying whether that myth is true or not true, I'm just saying that topic will be brought up for sure this week, in particular on Wednesday and Thursday. At the same time, we've got Uranus is still opposing the Sun, Saturn conjunction in our chart. We've got transiting Mars approaching an exact conjunction with our Saturn in the 10th house, which is our authority. Mars would come to trigger us to take action, to exercise our authority, or that Mars is coming, that there's some sort of conflict coming to literally hit us. And Mars is guns, Mars is explosions. So especially it's opposite Uranus. So this is from an unexpected source. Saturn is the president, Saturn is in the 10th house, is the sort of the seat of government, which is Washington, D.C. This is Mars in Libra. So it's going to be about the same degree as ISIS and their Mars that's, there in Libra as well. So it could be them taking action militarily against us, but in a covert way. So, we also have Saturn that's transiting. The transiting Saturn is moving through our 12th house, the hidden house. So it's kind of like hidden enemies, or hidden, fears, hidden, forces that would like to do us harm, but that have some sort of an authority to do so, and that are organized, that are idealistic, because they've got this Sagittarius Saturn. So that will be popping into our first house shortly, like in, I believe, the end of December, so beginning of January. So things will come to light. But there have definitely been plans that have been being hidden as far as those who would like to do us harm. And because it's opposite Uranus, it suggests that it's even within our own borders, those who affiliate with, who are the rebels that are affiliating with those who would like to do us harm as a nation and to our reputation as an international power, okay? So, Neptune also, the transiting Neptune, it is trining our Venus and our Jupiter. There's another, we've got this Neptune-Jupiter kind of double whammy thing happening, where our sort of fantasy world or us being in dreamland or la la land is really kind of accentuated. Americans are really removed, I think, from what's happening on the national, or rather international stage. So that's very much accentuated right now. And to me, I'm worried that something will kind of happen just out of the blue, and us not really being fully prepared for it, because this type of stuff does never happen here, So I think it is extra important for us to be vigilant without being paranoid, just being aware of sort of what's happening on the world stage and how that might be affecting us here at home. Okay, so by Friday we've got Sun is now separating from Saturn. We've got, it's like a 4-degree orb. It's really chugging along, moving away from Saturn. It makes a trine to Uranus. Okay, so this is, two fire signs. They are in the mid degrees of the fire signs. So if you have your sun, your moon, your midpoint, in the middle degrees of a fire sign, or even the cardinal signs or mutable signs, you may feel an extra added sort of electrical spark this week, especially kind of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It might be a little harder to stay on task, or you might have a lot of extra ideas, and might be struggling a little bit with making them happen. I mean, Saturn is kind of in the mix, but it's sort of wide. If you're a teen, if your degree is in the teens, okay. So as far as helping you, actualize your ideas, the moon will be, wrapping up there in Virgo, and then moving into Libra also on Friday. So, the moon is at the later degrees of Virgo, later degrees of the mutable signs. You guys will be experiencing, the moon making aspects to your moon. I myself have my solar return moon at like 29 degrees, I believe, of Pisces. So it's going to be opposing my moon. So that might be a day where, and it's also making a T-square basically with the transiting Mercury. So it could be a day where there could be some conversation that's it could be even a psychic day in a way, but it could be a day where there's some analysis of spiritual matters and some analysis of reality versus fantasy. So just could be a day where you're totally think you know what you're talking about, but you're completely off, with that Neptune thrown in there. And it could be, as far as just with our friends on social media and things, you could see people, again, sort of more of the same theme of people being a little bit deluded maybe in what they're feeling more than willing to express on social media and other forms of online sources of sharing their thoughts. So, also, let's see, we got Pluto. Pluto will be squaring, it's got this square happening with Uranus. It's a 2-degree orb, but the Mars is it's moving into position to make that T-square, so that's continuing. And again, that won't be exact until this following week. The United States, our sun is part of that. It creates like this grand cross where our sun is opposing Pluto. And, we've got, because our sun and Venus and Jupiter, we've got a nice little stellium there, as well as Mercury in our national chart. As this Mars moves, it's going to kind of hit everything. It kind of hits Venus first. So this is going to be a time where it's like Venus and then Jupiter. It's activating us and our pleasures, what we're doing to sort of enjoy ourselves as Americans. This is like going to movies and games and, enjoying the holidays. It's then going to be squaring our sun. And when our sun is being squared by Mars, that's a time where us as a nation are activated. And this Mars that's been in Libra has been there's been a lot of activity relative to diplomacy, okay? A lot of the national, or rather international allies of the United States have strong cardinal signatures where their sun, their moon, perhaps their rising sign even, are in one of the cardinal signs of Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. So all of us are sort of being triggered at the same time, and that's why this Libra energy is really helpful, because it's helping us to come together and collaborate with one another rather than like fighting each other. But when you look also at some of the countries that are not necessarily on our side, they also have cardinal energies and they're being activated as well, but in different ways. Like ISIS's Mars is being activated, so that's them taking action in a way to cause harm, So anyway, on Friday though, when we look at our national chart and how it's being triggered, we've got the moon. Also, I didn't mention this, the moon is going to be coming to make a conjunction with the North Node. So this is the world axis. As it does this, there can be these themes of when you look at North-South Node issues, it can be themes of relationship, because it's this polarity, okay? It's like on the world's, the grand scheme of the world stage, right? So a moon in Virgo to me has a lot to do with analysis and analyzing relationship. And so this can apply to you in your personal life. You may have, again, these sort of collaborative issues that you're sort of having to take stock of. And it could on the national stage just be, again, more of the same, of these countries kind of coming together to collaborate. Mars is moving into position to make a conjunction with our Saturn still, as I've mentioned. The transiting Sun, of course, is also holding there, opposite Uranus along with Saturn. So that's kind of, that Saturn opposite our Uranus is kind of the thing that's like holding us in place and preventing us from sort of taking action in a way that's sort of unexpected or destabilizing. Okay, it's good. I think it's keeping us in this holding pattern. Okay. And also, we've got the transiting Neptune, which is squaring our Uranus. And that transiting Neptune is also still, of course, trining our Venus and our Jupiter, like our pleasure principle. You know, it's kind of like we are in La La Land big time. That's why I said this is like the Sugar Plum Fairies thing this week, just dreaming of Sugar Plum Fairies, especially as Jupiter comes to exactly conjunct our national Neptune. It's like we are truly escaping big time the realities. As that moon, though, our national moon that's in Aquarius, Jupiter will also be making a little bit of a quincunx to that moon. So we really are asleep right now. I mean, asleep, okay? Next week, not so much. We're going to be waking up next week, okay? And especially the following week as well when the Sun and Saturn, move into the first house of our national chart. But right now, we are big time asleep in the United States. So enjoy your zombie shopping, your zombie online, whatever, purchasing things for your family and trying to just keep your blinders on to what's happening in the world. That's not going to last long. So, okay, on to Saturday. All right, on Saturday, we've got our moon. It is in Libra. It is moving to conjoin Mars in Libra, and it will be opposing Uranus, which will be making a little asymmetrical, triangle formation up to the Sun, which is conjunct Saturn. Okay, this to me is like women's rights issues. This is big time equality for females. This is also, the moon is also home. And so this could also be more of this sort of action being taken against refugees, unexpected action, or it could be even groups, humanitarian groups, taking action in such a way where they're activating their what's the word? Oh my gosh. They're uniting with one another. They're taking action to come together to provide support for refugees, to provide home. This is a time where when you combine the moon and Mars, that's a time that's fairly emotionally reactive because you have sort of the emotional climate of the world and the desire to do something about that, to take action in the same zodiac sign at the same degree. So they're like working together. So it can be reactive emotional reactions. Opposite Uranus, it can be, it's not exactly opposite Uranus, but it is with an orb at 13 degrees, opposite 16-degree Uranus. This can be taking action in a way that's kind of unexpected, and it is connected to the Sun and Saturn, which would suggest governments like larger militaries perhaps even taking action in a way that is military, that is emotionally comes from a place that's, again, reactive, and Saturn is in the mix, but see, Sun is moving to 13 degrees, and that Sun will be exactly sextiling Mars. So to me, it's kind of like it's like the reins of the horse. You're holding the horse back, and then you slowly kind of are letting go. This is the time when they're kind of letting go of control of let's wait, and this is kind of more, okay, let's take action, let's do something. It's at least gearing up to take action for certain. Mercury at this time also is squaring Jupiter. So, Jupiter that's in Virgo to me is an analyst, okay? Mercury in Sagittarius is diplomats, or it's leaders speaking, talking about things. And they're squaring one another. So this is kind of like, and they've been squaring one another, but it's kind of, this is the time where they may be disagreeing with one another about what action to be taken. And as that Sun is moving away from Saturn, we start to and it's in Sagittarius, we start to become a little bit more confident, a little bit more bold, and perhaps taking action in a way that's not what we're being told to do. Like the leaders thinking they know better than the analysts are, or the counselors are sort of recommending. So we could see some action being taken that's not what was recommended, or action being taken that analysts who are analyzing the situation as it's happening, whether it's in our country or even, in other countries, are sort of like, what are they doing? This is a little bit they're overstepping, or it's pretty risky. It's a bold move. You might see something. We might see something like this on Saturday. At the same time, let's see. We've got the Pluto-Uranus square. It is also, we've got a T-square at that moon coming to join Mars. It's also making a T-square, Pluto and Uranus. This is a really big, Pluto-Uranus, those are our big players in the transiting, as far as the outer planets. So Pluto's revolution, I'm sorry, not revolution. Pluto is in Capricorn, has to do with those big institutions that have a lot of power. Uranus in Aries is revolution. And then you oppose that with Mars and Libra. It's not an exact opposition yet, but it's moving into position. And when the moon joins it, the moon does add an element that's, an unpredictable kind of spark to the deal. So you could see something happening for us here in the United States. I believe it will be later. I want to say later in the day. I don't have the exact time. So there could be some sort of an action being taken relative to, it's Mars conjunct Moon. It could be even something that happens that's unexpected here in the United States. So hopefully not, because it's in Libra. This makes me think of, again, Paris and France and those countries that have strong Libra signatures in their chart. But it is, Mars is squaring our national sun. So, the United States is involved some way, I believe, in something that happens on Saturday. So we will have to wait and just see what happens. When I look at how that day kind of affects our national chart, the things that I see are, I do see Mars coming closer to conjoining our Saturn, which is, like I said earlier, in the 10th house, that's our authority. That is our capital. That is our seat of authority and power, our government, and that's squaring our sun, which is our country, our nation, which is also then at the bottom of this T-square, squared to Uranus, the transiting Uranus, which provides sort of this spark of unpredictability, or Uranus rules people who are terrorists or rebels or those who are outside the box of just, normal society. It can even be stateside, people doing things that are unexpected, that are even, American. So, anyway, there is a suggestion something is gearing up to happen. This formation becomes more exact the following week. So I would not be surprised if something happens, within Saturday, Sunday of this week, perhaps in Washington, D.C., or something that directly affects the seat of the president, okay, so, or the government. This is the authority that the United States has to take action in the world as a government or as a leader. So that is going to be somehow activated. With Mars and Libra, it could simply be that we choose to join forces with the other countries that are currently sort of coming together to fight terrorism and to fight things that are happening in the Middle East and whatnot around the world. So we shall see. Another big thing that happens that day is Venus does move into Scorpio and will be at 0 to 1 degrees of Scorp or so. So when I look at ISIS, the time that I gave ISIS, I gave them like a noon time for their national chart. To me, just because, to me, that is activating that moon of theirs, and the Mars on that day will be making a conjunction, I believe, with their Mars. Let me just make sure if I've got the degrees correct. Yeah, it's coming with an orb to make a conjunction. It's like, I believe it's like just right behind their ascendant. So, there is suggestion that ISIS will be active on this day, and this whole week they're definitely gearing up for something. And the 10th of December is kind of a day where we really see some big activations to our national chart. But Saturday could also be a day where there is an event that happens. So there is my my overall kind of forecast for the week. I hope that was helpful. I know we focused a lot on mundane events. I like mundane events. If you don't like that, then I guess this forecast isn't for you. But it is, let me know what your experience has been this week. If you look at sort of the events, if this is something you enjoy doing, forecasting for the week, let me know your thoughts and let me know the things that you saw. And I'm sure I've missed things. I'm kind of like rushing through this because I want to go to dinner with my boyfriend. So just let me know your thoughts, and good luck this week. Try to wake up if you're in that dreamy place, in that dreamy, sleepy state of not paying attention to what's actually going on in the world around us, because there's some things that are kind of a brewing right now for sure. A lot of people that need our help as well. So thanks for watching and have a good one. Okay, bye-bye.